My mom and my grandmother and her kids lived on the south side of Chicago back when Martin Luther King was killed. And there was a brick that was thrown through their front window and it shattered everything. And after this, my grandmother said, we have got to go. And this is not going to work for my son, my Uncle Jeffrey. So this is a story that was relayed to me and why I ended up living and growing up on a farm for the formative years of my life. So what I just told you is very true. So after Martin Luther King was assassinated, there were a lot of riots that were going on in the bigger cities around the United States for various reasons. And my grandmother, at the place in the house in which that they were staying, there was a brick that was actually thrown through their front window. And it scared the bejesus out of everybody. And I know everybody knows about the gang problems that are going on in Chicago and surrounding areas now, but apparently this was the genesis of some of it. And in order to feel safe walking around, there were people that were beginning to connect via gang, and they were recruiting young people. And my uncle happened to be a young person around that time. And my grandmother, Ruth is her name, Granny is what I called her affectionately. God rest her soul. She made it to be 90. Love that woman. She was the glue, the matriarch of our family. And she had the foresight to see these people may come after my son and recruit my son. And she was saying, I'm not having it. So they found, apparently there were a lot of people in the Chicago area at that point that were looking at places that were in the general vicinity of Chicago, but not quite in Chicago. Maybe not in the suburbs, but even further. So approximately 48 miles south of Chicago, they landed on this place called Hopkins Park, aka Pembroke. And she bought 2 plots, of land out there. Put a trailer on that. Yes, I'm a trailer park boy. I grew up in a trailer, actually a couple of them, out, and they call it's Pembroke / Hopkins Park. If you've never heard of Pembroke or Hopkins Park, I urge you, look up this interview that Oprah Winfrey did years ago on Pembroke. And she did it because apparently it was deemed to be one of the poorest places in the United States. I was like, really? I didn't feel poor when I was growing up. But she contacted some people that didn't have running water. There was a couple issues at that time. And I still remember my address from when I was a kid. It's etched and burned into my memory. But it was a simple time. My dad lived in the city, so I got both the city and the country. But my grandmother, she wanted to look out for her kids. She wanted to look out for her son. And she wanted to move to a place where she would be able to raise him in an environment where he didn't always have to look over his shoulder. And all of her children and grandchildren are thankful.